All right, some huge news out of the NFL today. Some things that happened yesterday. NFL probably didn't want to really have to release, but if you look at it, I think all this stuff makes sense. We start to hammer out the timeline. First of all, huge news today coming out for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers going to be back. Massive deal. It looked like he was going to be getting a massive deal. It was reported early on Aaron Rodgers would be turning to the Green Bay Packers $200 million over 4 years, over $150 million guaranteed. And you're thinking, okay, you see this deal, this will secure him for the next 3-4 years, whatever he wants to play, push money out in the future, and it will allow them to help build the team currently. Sounds terrific. Well, that ultimately wasn't the case. Aaron Rodgers is returning, but he came out on Twitter and vehemently denied the fact that there was no new deal in place. Didn't have one yet. And maybe they won't have one. Remember, folks, he's got 1 year left on his contract. So it's not like Aaron Rodgers has to come out here and has to sign a new deal. Most people think that he will. They voided the last year. He's under contract for this season. And so it would make sense if he's going to be returning that he would probably finish his career in Green Bay. And in doing so, would push out some of the money. Why would Aaron Rodgers push out the money? Well, here's the problem. Looks like they're going to be releasing Zadarius Smith. They've got to figure out what they're going to do there. They've got a number of other cap obligations. Valdez-Scantling, Lazard, both those guys are going to be free agents. One of them restricted. Tunyon, they've got to get under contract. Devontae Adams, they announced, will be playing under the tag or has been tagged this year as they work towards a long-term agreement. And so the timing of this was very critical. Aaron Rodgers announces he's coming back. That allows Green Bay to put the tag on Devontae Adams, gives them more time to negotiate. I think they want to get a deal done with him. I think they want him there and to pair him up with Aaron Rodgers through his continued time there. I think Devontae Adams, he probably only really wants to be in Green Bay as long as Aaron Rodgers is as well. He sees what happens to great wide receivers when you don't have a Hall of Fame quarterback. He saw what happened to Michael Thomas, although he was hurt. When Drew Brees was out, his production went down. And you see what can ultimately happen to some of these guys when they don't have that great signal caller to drive the ball to them down the field. So it allows them to pair them up together. So Aaron and Devontae will be able to finish up. And it gives them, they put the tag, gives them a little more time. It gives them another week to figure that contract out because you have free agency starting next week. And so they've got a number of these free agents. The Packers had to make decisions. Who were they going to bring back? Who were they going to let go? Who are they going to restructure? And so now they have a little bit of time. Aaron said he didn't want this to drag on too long. He didn't want to make a spectacle of it. Well, it took him some considerable time. But frankly, who are we to judge? When he said he want to take long, I think that looking back on it now meant like, I don't want this thing to be dragging on into the summer. That's not my intention with it. I want to make sure that whatever decision I make, I'm coming back. If I want to come back and choose to come back, I'm coming back to a team that is going to be able to prepare themselves to ultimately go and win a Super Bowl. And so the conversation then progresses. Does Aaron Rodgers need to win a Super Bowl to justify his return? Well, all the conversation and talk on sports talk around this was given the fact that everyone thought he was getting $200 million and $50 million a season, 150 guaranteed, some sort of landmark deal. And it may come out that he has a great deal. But to justify that contract, it talked about Super Bowl. Him returning is him wanting to play ball. He wants to finish his career in Green Bay. Said he's happy to be back for his 18th season. Not many players are able to stay with one team throughout the entirety of their career. And when Tom Brady didn't, we probably should have known that it's going to be a rarity. Aaron Rodgers, this gives him the opportunity to do so if they get that contract worked out. And my guess is they'll figure something out over the next week. That Green Bay front office, Brian Gutekunst, they are going to be sharpening their pencils and trying to do all kinds of higher level calculus to figure out how Aaron's deal will work with everyone else's deal, who to bring back, who to let go. And if there's someone in free agency that they want to target to go after to try to make their team better. Brian Gutekunst came out and said, their general manager, that he wanted to make this as advantageous situation for Aaron Rodgers as possible. Well, he's going to have the opportunity to do that, but he doesn't have a whole lot of time. The man has about a week and change to go ultimately make that happen. And so as Aaron Rodgers announces his return, triumphantly to Green Bay, he just finished officiating his offensive tackle, David Bakhtiari, officiates his wedding, and then announces this decision. And so you looked around, could it have been Denver? Maybe he was flirting with trying to get to San Francisco. You look at a number of other teams, stay in the NFC. Do you go to the AFC? What else would ultimately have been out there? The Green Bay Packers were smart, and they were preparing for a multi-track plan, multi-track approach, get the contract ready should he want to return, negotiate with other teams. So if they had to today, they could get something done quick and really be able to move. But 1 week left until free agency. So really smart to see them get this done. The next piece of it now, what will his contract look like? And if he even wants a new one, maybe I can't imagine him staying here this year and then going somewhere else and playing when he would be a free agent. Could always happen. I don't see that in the cards for him. The fact that he came back, I think he's in a good spot now with his relationship with Green Bay. I think they've mended fences with the front office. He feels good about the coaching staff. He likes the roster, and they're really in the prime of their window. The reality is, I don't think there was a better place for Aaron Rodgers to go and win. They're going to be able to bring back his top receiver. They've got a good offensive line in place. They can tool up the defense a little bit, get Aaron another weapon or two. But I ultimately think this is the best place for him. And if you look at the division he's in, Detroit, they're still rebuilding. Minnesota has a new coach. They're in a little bit of a state of transition there. Minnesota, Detroit, and then ultimately, as you look at Chicago with Justin Fields, like they're building as well. They've got a new coach. They have a new GM. And so this isn't a situation where he's going to be battling in some tough division. He's going to win the North. And then it's a function of, can you get the 1 seed and get a bye, or can you get, home field with the 2nd seed all the way until the NFC Championship? However it's structured, they've been able to do that the last handful of years, being the 1 or 2 seed. We'll see if that can continue for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, but it's all set up for them to be able to do it and march through. And the reality is, if you look at the NFC, it's a much weaker quarterback conference now with the departure of Brady and Breeze. And if you look over at the AFC, crazy town. Another big quarterback did depart the NFC and departed for the AFC. Right after Aaron Rodgers announces his return, all of a sudden, boom, the Denver Broncos announced they're trading for Russell Wilson. The Denver Broncos have had 11 quarterbacks that have started since Peyton Manning. They've been trying to figure this thing out by hook or by crook, trade, free agency, draft, whatever they can do. Drafting guys high, drafting them low, whatever it was. Couldn't seem to get it right. John Elway does a good job bringing in free agents, does a good job with trades. Just traded for Russell Wilson. What did the Broncos give up to get him? You have Drew Lock, who's a 2nd-round pick. They took a quarterback, probably not the future. Shelby Harris, defensive end, talented player. Noah Fant, 1st-round tight end. So, I don't know what the values you're putting on Lock, but Noah Fant's been a pretty good player. Harris has been a pretty good player. So, a package of players that can go help you. And it gives Seattle a chance to see if maybe Drew Lock could be their guy. Also, 2 1st-round picks, 2 2nd-round picks, and a 5th. So that's a bevy of what they were able to get for trading away Russell Wilson. That is what Denver ultimately had to give up. They get Russell Wilson. They get a 4th-round draft pick. That comes right on the heels. So it felt like Denver was probably holding on and waiting to see if Aaron Rodgers was going to be available. Now, I'm sure they'll deny that to this day, but it just is too circumstantial. I understand tag day, free agency's on the horizon. Russ has wanted to get out there. And I guess there was a big push from Russell Wilson to ultimately get there. 12 teams had apparently called about him. He had made it known that he wanted out of there. He talked about it last season. There was even a list that leaked out of his approved teams, most of them in bigger markets. Denver, I guess, was his approved spot, according to Adam Schefter, where he ultimately wanted to go. And so they facilitated that, helped to make it happen. And Denver gave up a bunch. Now, Denver has a talented offense. They've got talented wide receivers. They've got a pretty good offensive line. Feel like they're going to be in a good position to utilize his skills. Here's the thing for Russell Wilson. He just left the NFC West. It's San Francisco. He's going against Jimmy Garoppolo. They got Trey Lance coming. Pretty good situation there. They've made Super Bowls, NFC championships. You had Arizona, who made the playoffs and is on the come up with Kyler Murray. And then you had the Rams, who just won the Super Bowl, and have Matt Stafford, who's going to be there for a while. Now, granted, they went all in and they've been mortgaging their future with picks, but the NFC West still really, really legit. And what they're going to be able to do, that was who he was competing against prior. All three of those teams made the playoffs last year. Now, flips over to the AFC West. Boy, you got some good young quarterbacks. You got Mahomes with the Chiefs, Justin Herbert with the Chargers. You've got Derek Carr sitting there with the Raiders. And by the way, two of those three teams made the playoffs. All three of them could have got in if the Chargers would have elected to tie the Raiders. And so you'd have to say the Raiders are the worst. But they were sitting there staring down a 4th and goal opportunity to potentially beat the Cincinnati Bengals in the wild card, a team that represented the AFC in the Super Bowl. So Russell Wilson diving right back in. I understand he's competitive. Russell Wilson believes he can probably go out there and win every single football game. That's what makes him great. That's what separates him and a lot of these elite QBs from everyone else. They're not afraid of the competition. He wanted to go there. He liked the system. He liked the setup. He liked the weapons. And the reality is the roster that he had at Seattle was not very good. They had not drafted well. They drafted somewhere around 50 picks, over the last 7 to 10 years, really producing minimal success outside of Bobby Wagner. Earl Thomas, they drafted, the number of years back. He was elite. He's no longer there. Wagner, really their only other guy that they've drafted that's been, a high level player. DK Metcalf as of recent, but he's still really young. And so they haven't really done Russell Wilson any favors. And so you understand why he's wanted to get out of there. He got paid a decent amount of cash. And so also one of the things that Seattle, they had to eat was a $27 million cap hit that they'll have to take this year. Now they're going to be able to clear up, I think, around $12 million with his salary not ultimately being on the books. But Seattle taking a massive cap hit. So you have to look at this now. Pete Carroll, right around 70 years old. It's going to be a rebuild. It looks like he's going to be around for that, at least for this year. I could see him maybe retiring after this or stepping down or whatever happens. But if he was going to do it for this season, knowing Russ was going to, do this, he had an idea that this could happen. He probably would have stepped down right after the season. So maybe Pete is in this for the long haul. But Seattle fans, be prepared, because as I listed them off, Mahomes, Herbert, and Carr, as much as people like to laugh at Carr, he was pretty darn good last year in the face of one of the most adverse seasons you will find. That is who he's going to be dealing with. So you can laugh at that, Seahawk fans, but in reality, you still have to deal with Trey Lance, assuming that he becomes the starter and Jimmy goes, Kyler Murray, and Matt Stafford. And is Drew Lock your quarterback this year? We'll see if you draft somebody. I don't think this is the year to probably go all in on a quarterback. So Lock is probably a little bit more of a placeholder. So it's going to be a little bit of a rebuild, Seattle. Now, Pete did it pretty quickly the first time. He has a bevy of picks. We'll see if they're able to pay off on him early in Pete's career like they did, because they haven't really done a great job of it late. So 2 quarterbacks, 1 staying, 1 leaving. Aaron stays in the AFC and NFC. They stay strong. You look at Seattle, they lose their quarterback. He's going to a loaded AFC West with Russell Wilson, and a loaded AFC as you have Joe Burrow, you have Josh Allen. You've got some teams that are loaded up and ready to make some runs. And we're not even talking about Lamar Jackson, who has won an MVP as well. So the AFC is loaded with young studs. Russ now kind of the senior player there, a little bit older in his 30s, but still I think a lot of tread left on his tires. Now, as we talk about the quarterbacks and put them to bed, some interesting news came out yesterday on Monday. The NFL announces, they come out that Calvin Ridley is going to be suspended for a full season. Wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons, 1st-round draft pick out of Alabama, really talented player, do $10 million this year on salary, suspended a year, not for PEDs, not for off-the-field conduct, but for violating the NFL's gambling policy. Now, why is this important? The NFL is getting in bed with gambling. They're on board with it. They understand that that's the future of their game to drive revenues. And it's going to be critical and imperative that they continue to bring that in and partner with these gambling entities to help heighten interest, draw more ratings. It's going to have bigger dollars from the TV partners, bigger dollars from gambling partnerships. It's a win for everybody. But you have to make certain the game is on the up and up. The integrity is there. That's why they have the injury reports. That's why there's going to be more information disseminated. That's why there's going to be a lot of content built around it. And everybody's going to know everything. The one thing they want to know is to make sure that players with inside information aren't betting on games. And with the internet, with mobile technology, and you got your phone and you can place bets anywhere. But the thing is, it's easier now than ever to make bets. Hop on an app, it's attached to a credit card, a bank account, whatever it is, and it's super easy to do. But it's also easier than ever to track. And that's how he got caught. Calvin Ridley got caught because during his time off, when he's had, some family personal issues, some mental health things, took some time away, goes to Florida, places a bet there through the Falcons with a parlay. Falcons were allegedly involved. And NFL was able to track that through his bank accounts, had his own name on his account, and ultimately spirals back up to them, and they find out about it. Now, Calvin Ridley comes out and says, it's just $1,500. It was on a parlay, which probably isn't the smartest thing in the world to do if you're going to risk your career over gambling to put in a parlay and not something on that much cash. The NFL came out and said, however, that there was no inside information used in the bet. So either A, Ridley doesn't talk to any of his teammates. B, he doesn't care about any of that. C, the NFL really didn't investigate it that closely. Or D, they chose not to really look through and to find anything out. Because I guarantee you, Ridley would have access to who was playing, who was not, who was looking probable for the game, more so than just the injury report, if he wanted to get it. I'm not saying that he did, but he would have the availability to do so. And maybe he gave the NFL his phone, said, hey, dig through it, look at the text, see what's there, look at my phone records, and I'll freely give that to you to make sure that it's only a year and nothing longer. Or maybe he said, no way, and the NFL slapped him with a year, and they have no real proof to go either way. But think about when the NFL released this. The NFL came out with the announcement of Calvin Ridley's suspension the day before tag day. And so everybody was going to be talking about that for one day, and then they were going to move on to the franchise tags, knowing as well that there's a pending Aaron Rodgers announcement that he might come back. The fact that Russell Wilson wanted to be traded, and a lot of these things were going to have to happen prior to free agency. And so that was only going to be in the news cycle for a very small amount of time. And so people look at Monday, this coming out on Monday. That's NFL smarter than that. It's the Friday news dump. Yes, it normally is. You normally put that out on Friday, but in this situation, the NFL did it a little differently. And I think even did it smarter to continue to push positive news because everybody is talking about Aaron Rodgers, talking about Russell Wilson and how their new teams, about 10-1 or 12-1 odds for Green Bay and the Broncos and what their Super Bowl odds look like and what the league could potentially look like next year as Aaron returns and Russ moves teams. And so with that, the NFL, they're smart. They got it figured out. They know what's going on, and they just played everybody. And so hopefully they'll be able to bury the Ridley news way down low. And, it'll be an afterthought here in a couple of weeks. That's all for this brief edition of Carps Corner. I wanted to throw it out because so much stuff was going on, and we need to make sure we got it all covered as we continue to bring you the updates from the sporting news, NFL, college football, college hoops, everything. And if it's newsworthy, it's going to be talked about on here. We'll get you all that here on Carps Corner. Thanks.